I'm one of the I'm one of the I'm one of the I'm one of the oh yeah, so precious. Love ya. Love ya.
However, B'siyata D'Shmaya, Havid the Heilige Shabbos. We're entering into the second flame of Chanukah. So we're 72 days until Chanukah. Tomorrow you're fired up for Chanukah, and we're gonna mamish learn about it, cry about it, the whole thing. Okay. Tov, crazy story tonight. I hope we're ready. And it could be like a little bit more reading than usual, but it's definitely worth it. So we're first going to go into the second piece of Shining Eyes, the soul of Chanukah. We're talking about recapturing our dreams. And Chanukah is a time, Chanukah, where it's above nature. It's the 8th day of Chanukah. It represents eternity. It allows us to live Chanukah and draw down the light of Chanukah for the rest of the year. So we're trying the same way with Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, all these great days, all these great holidays, to take a lesson from Zot Chanukah and to bring it into our lives for every single moment. So Zot Chanukah. Chanukah is the time that God is visiting us. It is a very beautiful thing to be invited to the king's palace. But when the king takes time out to visit you, when you are sick, it means he loves you so much more. All the great moments where we meet God occur in holidays when we are not permitted to work. I stop working. I'm going to visit God. In Elul, I meet God in the field. But a home visit? Can you imagine how much God is shining onto me, onto us? When we walk in to visit the king in his palace, he smiles at us a little bit. But when the king takes the time to visit us in our house, in our Dalet Amos, by our menorah, when he walks in, do we know how much he is smiling? When our eyes see the smile, we begin to dream once again. So, Chaver, just in short, before we enter into the story, in Elul, we meet God in the field, but on Chanukah, God meets us in our house. And wherever we're hiding, whether we're aware, whether we're not aware, God tells us enough is enough. I can't be without you. I can't be without you, and I'm going to shine so bright into you where you'll feel it. Whether you think you don't feel it or you're not going to feel it, you're going to feel it. Everyone feels Chanukah. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should be aware of this. And once we experience this and feel it for even one moment, the dreams start opening up, the mind starts opening up. We all of a sudden come from meitzar, from constrictedness to expansiveness. Anani b'merchavka. So ask the old Hasidim. And Chaver, I'm sorry if it's a little bit more than a little bit more reading. Donnie, great to see you. And this is just a powerful story talking about how God comes to us. God comes to us. And despite there being a lot of important things going on, God comes to each and every Jew, no matter where they find themselves, no matter where they're located. So ask the old Chassidim, and truthfully, I don't know where to start the story, but it's at the beginning of this chapter of Rav Moshe Leib of Sasav, although I don't think it's about Rav Moshe Leib of Sasav. As you can see, this book, Somewhere a Master. Ask the old Chassidim. Ask them to tell you what the great tzaddik of Nimrav was known to do during the week preceding Rosh Hashanah. They will tell you that in the morning hours, when Jews everywhere rise to go and say their prayers of penitence, the slichot, with special fervor, the tzaddik of Nimrav had a way of disappearing. He would disappear and could be found nowhere, neither in the synagogue, nor in the houses of study, nor at the shtibel, nor least of all, at home. Where could the Rebbe be? Well, where should he be, except in heaven? Is not a Rebbe inundated with requests and pleas on the eve of the solemn days of judgment? Jews need a livelihood. They need peace, health, a few nice Jewish boys for their daughters. Jews wish to be honest and pious, but their sins are many. And Satan, with his 1,000 eyes, surveys the world from one end to the other, prying into everyone's life and tempting young and old, worthy and unworthy. Who is there to redeem a sinner if not the Rebbe? Who is there to help if not the Rebbe? Clearly, he personally had to go to heaven to take care of things. Everybody understood that. But one day, a Lithuanian Jew, a stubborn enemy of Hasidim, came into town. And when he heard the story, he laughed. You know how those Lithuanian Jews are. They know the Talmud and nothing else. Nothing else exists for them. And Talmud to them means logic. And logically, the tzaddik cannot go up into heaven, since Moses himself had to stop 10 levels below heaven. Now tell me, what is the use of arguing with Lithuanian logic? Still, they did try. They asked the visitor, and where do you think our Rebbe goes? That is no concern of mine, he answered, shrugging his shoulders, but secretly he made up his mind to solve the mystery. When the evening prayers were over, the Litvak slipped into the Rebbe's bedroom and hid under the bed, ready to spend the entire night there to see where the Rebbe went when the others ran to slichot in the synagogue. Chaver, this is the biggest story of all. Biggest story of all. Eli Wiesel tells the story. Anyone else would have dozed off, but not a Litvak. No, no way. He kept awake by concentrating on a complicated Talmudic passage. Just before daybreak, he heard the beadle as he went from house to house, from door to door, calling out, Shtis of zu slichos, it's late. Get up for slichot services. The Rebbe needed no one to wake him. He had been lying in bed moaning for hours. Anyone who heard the Rebbe moan knew that the moans expressed all the woes and sufferings of his people. They were enough to make you burst into tears. But a Litvak's heart is as cold as a stone. He lay there under his bed, listening to all this, while the Rebbe tossed in his bed. Soon the Litvak heard the house come to life. A few whispers, the splash of water, doors opening and banging shut. Then with everyone gone, silence reigned again, and all was dark, except for a faint beam of moonlight creeping in through the crack of one of the shutters. The Litvak admitted afterward that when he was left alone with the Rebbe in the dark and empty house, he was frightened. To be left alone with the Rebbe at dawn just before Slichot has nothing to joke about. But a Litvak is a Litvak, obstinate beyond reason, so he stayed there, laying there, trembling, waiting. At last the Rebbe got up. He washed his hands, his face, then he went over to the closet, pulled out a bundle containing peasants' garments, and put them on. And dressed like a peasant, the Rebbe left the room, with his Litvak trailing like him like a shadow. The Rebbe stopped in the kitchen to pick up an axe, tucked it into his belt, and left the house. Now Litvak was trembling even more, but he followed the old man nevertheless. His heart was pounding hard as he followed the Rebbe, who was making his way through the silent, unlit streets leading out of town. They came to a forest, and the Rebbe kept on walking. After a few minutes, the Rebbe stopped at a young tree. The Litvak was astonished to see the Rebbe pull out the axe out of his belt and start chopping away at the tree until he felled it and split it into logs and kindling. And he tied the wood into a bundle, threw the bundle over his shoulder, tucked the axe back into his belt, and started back in town. At the end of the narrow road, there stood a wretched hut. He knocked at the window. Who is there? A frightened woman's voice came from the within. It's me, answered the Rebbe with a thick accent, sounding like a peasant. It's me. Who are you? Asked the woman. Vasily, the Rebbe replied. Vasily who? What do you want? I've got some wood to sell. Cheap, very cheap, almost for nothing. I saw no smoke rising from your chimney, so I thought you could use some of my wood. And without waiting for an answer, he entered the shack while the Litvak hovered near the door. And the Litvak saw the inside of the hovel. Under rag bedclothes, a sick woman was lying helpless. Wood, she said. You sell wood? I have no money. It doesn't matter, said the Rebbe. I trust you. How much is it anyway? 6 coppers? I trust you for 6 coppers. But how will I ever manage to pay you? I'm sick. Don't you see how sick I am? Foolish woman, said the Rebbe. I trust you. Why don't you trust God in heaven? Isn't he worth 6 coppers? And who will light the stove for me? The sick woman groaned. I'm a widow. My son is away at work. Will it look like one who has the strength to get up and light a fire? Don't worry, the Rebbe said. I'll do it. And stooping down to put the wood into the stove, he whispered the first slicho prayer. And when the fire caught the kindling, he said the second prayer, then the third. Then it was time to replace the lid on the stove. And that's how a Litvak became the Rebbe's most devoted follower. And whenever a chassid would tell him how the tzaddik of Nimrod will rise early on the solemn days of Slichot to ascend straight into heaven, the Litvak no longer sneered but said quietly, to heaven, if not higher. Chaver b'siyata d'shmaya, the Ribbona Shoylam, the master of the world. There's a lot of things going on. Lahavdil, the Slichot prayers. It's a busy time during Chanukah and throughout the year. There's a lot of things going on. Ribbona Shalom is running everything in the world on a general level, on a micro level, to the tiniest detail, to all of our lives and all of our uniqueness and all of our journeys. And it's Gevalt, Lahavdil, the tzaddik of Nimrod. Despite all the busyness and all the things, he had his followers waiting for him in the Beit Knesset to start the Slicho prayer. Everyone was waiting. Yet he went to this one hut outside of town, very far from town, just to see the sick woman, to attend the sick woman, to bring wood to the sick woman. And not only did he bring the wood to her, he healed her. And in the process, this chassid, or this Litvak, who wasn't an avid follower of this Rebbe, he started to dream again. The tzaddik of Nimrod gave him back his dreams. So chaver b'siyata d'shmaya, same too with ourselves. On Chanukah, we get back our dreams. And it's not just dreams where we think, we could jump up 50 inches. Something that's a little bit out of this world, but a little bit in reach. But like the tzaddik said, the chassid said, the tzaddik of Nimrod didn't just go to heaven; he went much higher. So in Chanukah, we dream above this world, outside this world completely. So b'siyata d'shmaya, we should have those dreams down now. Draw down those dreams right now. This is Zot Chanukah teaching us right now how to live those dreams. Chavra, questions, comments, please feel free. I'm sorry I read for Mamish 15 minutes. But it was important.
No, it's so good.
Baruch
So good.
Baruch Hashem. Donnie was into it. He's clapping. He's doing emoji. Tamar, I'm happy that you had Wi-Fi. And I'm also going to do a little reaction right now. A little bit of rocket ships.
Wow.
We're going out of space, Chavra. We're going out of space.
I love it.
The Siyata D'Shmaya, Chavra, be well. Let's win the day. Win the day. Be well, be well, be well.